In the middle of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Let's get into this video right now and let's talk about who's affected and if we have any solutions to the long government shutdown.
Imagine waking up one morning to find your government partially closed. That became the reality for millions of Americans as the nation plunged into its longest ever government shutdown. For 43 long days, a political standoff in Washington, D.C., left critical federal agencies unfunded and unable to operate. The lights went out, services ground to a halt, the paychecks stopped coming for hundreds of thousands of public servants. This wasn't just a headline from the Capitol. It was a crisis that reached into homes and communities across the entire country, creating uncertainty. The first and most immediate victims of the shutdown were the federal employees themselves. The first and most immediate victims of the shutdown were the federal employees themselves. The numbers are staggering. Roughly 900,000 workers were furloughed. They were sent home without pay. An additional 2 million essential employees were affected. Law enforcement, national security. Many were required to
Or some people had to come to work and still not get paid, which is ass. It's totally like I go to work every day, and in 2 weeks, I would expect to get money, or I'm not going to be really trying to be there. I wouldn't be trying to be. So I feel bad for people, not only for people who were told to go home, but people who actually had to come to work through all of this.
continue working but receive no paycheck. These were not abstract statistics. They were individuals with mortgages, car payments,
Mhm.
grocery bills, and families to support. For over a
And hopefully, some of the landlords, or even some of these banks or whoever understood that these people are employed, they just haven't gotten paid yet.
month, their primary source of income simply vanished. It was replaced by a growing cloud of anxiety and financial distress. The stories that emerged painted a heartbreaking picture. Federal workers from all walks of life found themselves in desperate situations, forced to dip into life savings, rack up credit card debt, make impossible choices between paying for rent and buying medicine. The impact of the shutdown extended far beyond the federal workforce, sending ripples of disruption across the entire American economy and society. The travel industry was one of the first to feel the strain. TSA agents working without pay, air traffic controllers working without pay.
Could you imagine being an air traffic controller? And a lot of air traffic controllers make six figures. All of a sudden, that's gone. Or a TSA worker who doesn't quite make six figures. They actually, I think, should be making more than what they make. They don't make a whole hell of a lot of money. But could you imagine, your job is so important to set the travels, you're in charge of people traveling safely and you're not being compensated for that. That's unbelievable to me. Or you're being told to wait for your money. That's unbelievable to me. Like I said on one of my videos, if I'm a TSA worker, everybody just coming through like, yeah, you good.
FAA staffing reduced. The nation's air travel system began to buckle. The FAA mandated flight reductions.
Hmm.
Airlines like American cut hundreds of flights. Chaos at airports. With Thanksgiving approaching, but still peak travel time for millions. The threat to vital social programs created widespread alarm. The U.S. Department of Agriculture posted a stark notice online. It warned that SNAP benefits would not be issued if the shutdown continued. SNAP is a lifeline for about 42 million low-income Americans, children, seniors, people with disabilities, families forced to choose between paying bills and buying food.
See,
Edit, find your government partially closed.
a lot of y'all were pretty upset because you felt like it was just people or single mothers or whatever that were not getting their SNAP benefits. I'm sorry, I have to go a little bit forward in the video, make sure we did not watching anything we haven't watched before because I messed up trying to pause it because I am a moron. I be messing up. Okay, okay, this is where we were talking about the SNAP benefits. But as my AI friend shared, it's not just single mothers. There are older people, people with disabilities that depended on those SNAP benefits. I mean, this is just money just for people to eat, and they were missing out on that because of a government shutdown. And luckily, that the government is opened up right now temporarily. But if they can't come on an agreement in January, they might shut right back down. They just opened up right right now because it's the holidays, and this is a good chance for them to recoup some of that money that they're giving away. You spend a bunch of money on food for the holidays, and that stuff goes right back into the economy. So a lot of businesses get fat during this time of year, and some of the people who use SNAP benefits are some of the main customers of some of the companies to make overabundance of money during this time of year. Capitalism.
For about 42 million low-income Americans, children, seniors, people with disabilities,
Hmm.
families forced to choose between paying bills and buying food. At its core, the longest shutdown in U.S. history was not about budgets in the abstract. It was a fierce political battle over the future of American healthcare. The specific point of
This is
contention
how it
was the
started.
extension of enhanced subsidies for ACA marketplace plans. These subsidies, meant to make coverage affordable, were set to expire. Democrats insisted any funding bill must continue them, arguing expiration would cause healthcare costs to soar for millions. They called it a moral imperative to protect people from unaffordable bills. Republicans largely opposed extending the subsidies. Their stance came from long-standing opposition to the ACA and promises to repeal and replace it. They said the subsidies were fiscally irresponsible and an unsustainable expansion of government spending. The House passed a temporary funding bill that kept the government open,
The
but allowed
ACA
the
is the
subsidies to
Affordable Care Act,
expire. That set up a confrontation with Senate Democrats.
Obamacare.
As the shutdown dragged into its second month, the immense public pressure began to expose fractures within both political parties. The unified fronts that had defined the initial days of the standoff started to crumble, especially among Democrats in the Senate. Schumer remained steadfast in opposing any funding bill that did not address the healthcare crisis, but a growing number of his colleagues grew anxious about the shutdown's escalating impact. Senators from more moderate states felt the pressure. Constituents called and pleaded, federal workers and families suffering. Internal dissent came to a head. A handful of Democratic senators broke ranks and signaled willingness to vote with Republicans to end the shutdown without guaranteed healthcare subsidies. Their motivation, the pain on federal workers, and the broader public suffering. They argued the shutdown was doing more harm than good. They said the healthcare fight should continue through other legislative means. The split left Schumer in a difficult position, caught between his progressive base and the pragmatic concerns of his caucus. The final vote laid divisions bare. The House passed the Republican-backed funding bill 222-209. With President Trump's signature on the bill, the 43-day government shutdown officially ended. Federal agencies began the slow and difficult process of reopening. The immediate effect was a wave of relief for the nearly 3 million federal workers who could finally expect to receive their back pay. However, the legislation that ended the crisis was only a temporary fix, a stopgap measure that funded the government until the end of January. The fundamental disagreement over healthcare subsidies was not resolved. It was merely postponed. The clock was once again ticking, setting the stage for another potential showdown in just a few short weeks. Experts and political analysts outlined several possible scenarios for what could happen next. A government shutdown is far more than a political news story, a disagreement between lawmakers in Washington. It is a fundamental failure of governance with profound and personal consequences for millions. When the government cannot perform its most basic function, funding its own operations, the citizens pay the price. The 43-day shutdown was a stark illustration of this truth. It revealed how interconnected our society is and how dependent we are on steady, reliable public services we often take for granted until they're suddenly gone. This shutdown was a test of our nation's priorities.
A test of our nation's priorities, but it may happen again at the end of January because it was all over the Affordable Care Act. which is set to expire. And I guess the Republicans want something different here. Of course, it was a Democratic bill, so they want to keep it the same. Meanwhile, everybody's health benefits are going up and skyrocketing. It's going to be a lot to maintain health insurance for me and my child. I'm going to have to pay a lot of money in the meantime, but we need the health insurance, especially me because I got that blood pressure. I got high blood pressure and I need my medicine every month. I need to be trying to work out and get off of that blood pressure medicine, though, because it ain't even no good for me, to be honest. But the government shutdown for now is over, and I'm glad people are coming back to work. The air traffic controllers, who I said before, who make a lot of money, wasn't getting paid. Some of them wasn't coming to work, which delayed a lot of travel around the U.S. Um, which put a halt on a lot of things. But it's time for them to come back to work. It's the holiday season, so they postponed the shutdown until now. For now, but hopefully they can come up with some type of agreement. There's some type of plan. Maybe they redo the Affordable Care Act and let everybody have their insurance at a affordable rate. That's what I'm hoping for. What do you guys think about this video? Hopefully you guys like, share, and subscribe. And I am gone for now. Tell me what you think. Peace.